Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are back on the updates 1.97 dev server, and it's time to have a look at a new top tier Soviet MBT. This is the T-72B, and you'll find it after the T-72A in the tech tree. Makes the most sense, right? On that left hand line, and hopefully after it eventually we'll get, of course, that ever so elusive T-90. But the T-72B is a straight upgrade over its brother, the T-72A. It's pretty much got better protection, better engine, better use of gun, all of these things through different forms of ammunition. The T-72B has access to a bunch of ERA all over it. It should be Contact 1 or Contact 1 equivalent, meaning that it is useful against a lot of heat, but not so much against stuff like APFSDS. Unfortunately, right now, it doesn't seem to be modeled, at least on the armor viewer, so that is a bit of an issue. But the general armor underneath is, of course, the composite 60, 105, 45, and then on the turrets, you're looking at 140, 115, 280, and in the center, around about 400 millimeters of cast homogeneous armor. A T-72 is kind of a tough nut to crack for a lot of people, especially if they're not running the top tier APFSDS rounds. If they're running stuff which is more akin to heat or more akin to lower scale APFSDS, they might actually struggle to pen this vehicle, especially because of the amount of ERA on it. Unfortunately, the T-72B has a hit me spot, which is of course the driver's port, which good old Vladim over here is sat behind. Then you have the two guys in the turret. You also have just two pieces of ammo here, which is kind of interesting, and the rest of it, of course, in the first stage ammo stowage, 22 pieces overall. And what is nice about this carousel for the T-72 is it is flat, or if you compare it to like the T-80, it's actually stood up, so there's much more surface area that these rounds actually take and cover compared to the T-72, so it's actually harder to get ammo racked in something like a T-72 compared to the T-64 because of how the two-stage, ammo is set up. So that's something to keep into mind. As I said, they modified the gun. This is the 2A46M1. If you compare that to the T-72, the T-72 only has the 2A46M. And what that pretty much means is it gets access to slightly different munitions. So one of the things that is annoying about the dev server is, as you can see, there's a new row for the Soviet tank, and it definitely shouldn't be like that. But it means that it gets access to the 3BK18M, then a laser rangefinder, the 9M119, and the 3BM42, which is an incredibly powerful round for a 9.7 vehicle. The 3BM22 pens 425, 348, 193, and then the 42, 479, 415, 248. So you can see the general difference between the two APFSDS rounds. Then you have, of course, the Heat FS, which pens 550. You've got that wonderful HE shell, which can donk a fool. And then the ATGM, which is one of the large upgrades of the T-72B, which has really good penetration, but I don't know why you take this over something such as the 3BM42 unless you want better accuracy if you're firing at incredibly long range. Also has access to ASS, the T-72B, and also night vision. So no thermals on this machine, and it being a 9.7 vehicle, I feel like it would definitely benefit from thermals, but c'est la vie, this thing actually never got them in the 80s when it was, fully realized. It also has a reload rate of 7 seconds, which of course cannot go up or down because it's an auto loader, and with the crew of 3, all you have to do is pop the turret and Bob's your uncle. This vehicle is absolutely annihilated. Because of the extra armor, this means extra weight for the vehicle, so it is 41 tons, but it does have a more powerful engine to compensate with the extra weight that has been added to it. So it has the CHTZ 46.6. This gives it overall 780 horsepower to run around with. Also has the transmission in the back, which shows that its reverse gear still isn't good compared to any of the other, Soviet top tier MBTs. They really didn't believe in going backwards, did they? Unfortunately, maybe it would have helped them a lot when it came to War Thunder. This T-72B, one of the things I will say is I like all of the ERA on it. It just makes me feel a little bit uneasy when it comes to the vehicle, and that's just a personal thing. I really don't like how it looks. It kind of makes me a little bit uncomfortable just because of the kind of like outer, dotted areas. Really not great, but we will put on the deforming forest camo on it just because it's the best camo around. So you're pretty much out of this machine getting a better gun with slightly better ammunition, you're getting a better engine to compensate for the extra weight, and a bit more ERA on it, which will be very much good against people not slinging the top tier rounds, and even against the people who are slinging top tier rounds, I'm sure it'll be a little bit useful compared to before. It still keeps a lot of the feats from the first T-72. Apart from the first one, this is a bug. The bug is that the aiming reticle doesn't actually line up with where you're looking. Don't worry about that. I'm sure that'll be fixed. But it does, as you can see, have one of my favorite things, the automation pop for the shell. That's still here, which is lovely to see on this T-72B. Pop! It's just out and at 'em. You can hear a new noise for this 125mm. It's definitely meaty. It definitely feels incredibly loud, and with the T-72, I mean, I've personally always been okay with its maneuverability, even the T-72A, and I'm sure the T-72B is going to get hit quite hard by lots of critics because it's still not great in the speed department. It's still not maneuverable when you try and traverse. It still doesn't have dual drive. The turret itself is kind of slow, and also the reverse is absolutely terrible, but if played correctly, with a lot of these Soviet MBTs, playing incredibly defensively instead of gung-ho like a lot of German, American and Italian players play, you can do really well in these machines. There have been many games in my T-72 that I've racked up 5-kill games just by pretty much standing there and waiting for people to push me. And I feel like with a machine like this T-72, the Bravo, you can kind of do that, and because you have the extra armor, being in a hold down position is going to give you more of an advantage than before, and it just gives you that little bit more survivability, a little bit more of everything. It's definitely a generic upgrade over its predecessor, going from the T-64B to the T-72 and then the T-80. This, the incremental change from the T-72A to the T-72B definitely does make a difference, but I wish it made a difference in certain other areas. Would have been really nice to see this thing get thermals. One of the largest issues of our time when it comes to War Thunder and when it comes to high tiers is with the addition of the different visual settings, whether it be night vision, whether it be thermals, whether it just be standard sight, people are slowly but surely getting really used to thermals. And if you don't have a vehicle which is high tier, at least from 9.3 to 10.3, you need that vehicle to have thermals in order to be competitive with everything else, because then you can be on an equal playing field when it comes to being able to actually solve the issue and all of that stuff. But yeah, it's just it's kind of an unfortunate thing that this just doesn't get them. But it does get a bunch of other stuff, as I said, good reload, it's got some nice animations on it, it's got some decent speed. It's just another Soviet MBT that hopefully at some point will have something going for it, which is a little bit more than, the general stuff. It's got, very good penetrating rounds, it's got very good it's kind of got an interesting ATGM to it. It's got okay optics, would be nice if they were slightly better, but it's still okay. It's got, it's got the overall low setting to it. It's also got the really powerful turret. The turret should, be able to bounce a ton of stuff. But the question is, will it be able to bounce 10.3 stuff? Since this is 9.7, there's going to be a lot of stuff that it faces. And if it can't, machines such as the T-80 struggle with, how is this machine going to pull it out of the fire and put it into the brimstone and make it so it is true? So yeah, that's a bit of an issue when it comes to this. When I compare this to the new Chinese tank that got added. I think I'm much more happy to see the T-72B, so at least there's that, you know, silver linings, comparing it to, you know, what I personally see as a slightly worse tank than it, even though it was based off of the T-72, the Chinese little thing. There we go. It'll be nice to run this with the T-64s, maybe even bring it up with the Leopards, and sorry, maybe even bring it up with the T-80s. But overall, I think I'll have fun in this machine, even though it won't be a meta slave vehicle. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I just want to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Daniel Stanton, Jay Wilt, John Ryman, Martinez, Super Cacti, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, and also Elove Goat and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.